Hey everybody, Olive here. It's the beginning of a new month. We all know what that means. It's time for wrap-ups and TBRs, so I'd like to give you mine. Now, a quick disclaimer, I did not finish a whole lot of books this month. That does not mean I did not do my fair share of reading, but I had a little problem finishing books this month because I kept picking up new books that looked interesting. So I didn't finish any books because I kept getting distracted by other books. I did finish 3, and I have a whole bunch more that I can tell you about that I'm almost finished, and then I have a couple that I've just started, and then there are some others that I'm hoping to read during the month. I might be expecting too much of myself, but I'd like to keep to tradition, so we're just gonna do that. The first book I finished in September was The Keep by Jennifer Egan. I listened to this on audio. I picked this one up on a whim. I was kind of in the mood for a new audiobook, and I was just scrolling through Overdrive to see what ones of my wishlist titles were available, and I saw that this one was available. And I had been really interested in this one for a while. I like Jennifer Egan a lot. And this one seemed a little bit spooky, a little bit ghost story-y, and it takes place in Eastern Europe, so all the elements of things that I like. It took me a little while to figure out what was going on as I was listening to it, and I really wish I would have read a couple of reviews ahead of time because you're getting 2 different perspectives in this book. One of them is a perspective of a young man who was asked by his cousin to come to a castle that his cousin has bought in Eastern Europe to help him get it off the ground and make it into a hotel. So you're getting his story, and then you're getting the story of a prisoner who is actually writing this other story that you're listening to. It took me a little while to figure that out, and I feel like I missed out on some things because I was trying to figure that out. So if you do listen to that, just keep that in mind. During the first couple chapters, I wasn't sure how I liked that structure, probably because I didn't understand it, but it eventually really started to take off and make sense. I do agree with some Goodreads reviews I read on this, which said that there was a supernatural element to this castle slash soon-to-be hotel in Eastern Europe, and Jennifer Egan really didn't expand as much upon that as she could. It was much more about the story of the young man coming to Eastern Europe, and then a lot about the prisoner who's writing this story. It definitely had a lot of the elements of a book that I really like to read in the fall. So I would recommend it. Didn't love it, but I enjoyed listening to it. The next book was a really big surprise for me, and that was The Gazelle by Ricky Ducornet. I mentioned this in my latest book haul. I picked this up. It was on clearance at a bookstore, and I just love the sounds of it. It takes place in Cairo, and you're following a 13-year-old girl during a summer where her mother, on a whim, decides to leave her father. She has a lot of trouble processing this, as does her father. Something that I think was misstated in the synopsis of this book was that she starts studying under a master perfumer when her mother leaves her father. It is not actually that way. A perfumer and perfume merchant, same man, comes into her and her father's life. He plays war games with her father, which her father throws himself into after her mother has left. And this perfumer becomes a really big part of both of their lives. The 13-year-old girl is entering puberty at this time, and this perfumer is very charismatic and mysterious, and she is very, very attracted to him, so she's starting to feel some sexual feelings while still going through this awkward childhood phase, and then her mother has just left, so she's had a lot of feelings about that. What is really, really interesting about this book is that you're getting her perspective from when she was 13, and then you get snippets of when she's older, working as a, I guess, museum curator for mummies. So as an adult, she's working with mummies, so you're getting her reflections on her past, and then she's explaining her work in the present and how her past has affected her present. The writing is absolutely gorgeous in this. You can just smell the scents that this perfumer is working with, and you can feel, I think it's the 1960s Cairo just all around you. I love books like that. I just never expected that from this little book. It's kind of tiny. I didn't expect it to pack as much of a punch as it did. I would highly recommend reading this. Definitely if you're interested in perfumes or Egypt or kind of coming of age stories, I really, really enjoyed it. I just finished this next one, and that's Fates and Furies by Lauren Groff. This is a big buzzy one that's going around lately. I think the Times reviewed this and kind of gave it a rave. It deserves it. It's a really, really fantastic book. Even the first 30 pages, just the language was so beautiful. I know I have said in the past that I'm not a big language person, like I need there to be a really good story, but what's really interesting about the language in this book is that I didn't feel like you have to be an expert on literary fiction to be able to appreciate it. It's very simple, but the way that she says things is just lyrical without having to use flowery language. And she says things in ways that makes you feel like I've always had those feelings. Why have I never been able to translate that feeling into words? There is so much in here, and I'm just still trying to unpack it all in my brain. But what this says about marriage is just, it's gonna have me thinking for a really long time. I'll just say that much. Yeah, this is a 5-star book. Believe the hype. It is that good. I think this is gonna be a serious contender for some really big literary awards. It's good. Read it. So then I have 3 books that I'm almost done with. The first of them is, of course, The Unfolding of Language by Guy Ducher. I've spoken about this one before. This one is really fun. It kind of messes with format. It has diagrams and pictures in it. The format of this chapter is as though you're sitting in listening to a conference on language, and it's kind of going back and forth and discussing the 2 different arguments about this one thing pertaining to language, as though it's several people within this conference, the speaker and then the people listening. I guess I would kind of call it a visit from the Goon Squad, but in nonfiction, because it just kind of experiments with the form. I would really recommend this one. I'm looking forward to speaking a little bit more about it in my October wrap-up, because by then I will have finished it. The next one I'm almost finished with is The Slinks by Tatiana Tolstaya. I purposefully slowed down my reading of this book because I'm reading this with my husband and I was far outpacing him. He's been really busy working on a variety of things this month and has not had as much time to read. So we are slowly working through this one. There will be a review posted about this one because I have a lot to say about this book. There is so much delicious Russianness in this book, and I feel like a lot of people would potentially miss that if you don't have the background. So I'm hoping to delve into this one a little bit further and give you my perspective. And the last one that I am almost finished with is another audiobook, and it's called Nurture Shock, New Thinking About Children by Fo Bronson and Ashley Merriman. You may be confused by this selection if you've seen my video on going child-free. I am not interested in having my own children, but I am still very, very interested in children and parenthood and raising kids and child psychology, teenage psychology. I'm just very interested in how brains work and what it means to be a parent and things like that. And this book is so interesting. People have this listed on Goodreads as a parenting book. I would disagree with that. I don't think that you need to be a parent or be planning to be a parent in order to find this really enjoyable. It talks a lot about the cold hard facts, the science behind a lot of assumptions we have about raising children. There's a section talking about why we need to talk to kids about race and what starts to happen to kids' perception of race even when we don't talk to them about it. This book talks about just how important sleep is to developing minds, and that by pushing bedtime back even by a half hour, you're doing a very serious amount of detriment to a developing mind. It's overall just a really fascinating book. It's really good on audiobook as well. Would highly recommend it. Again, looking forward to talking a little bit more about it in my October wrap-up. I just recently got Only the Animals by Cara Dwindovy from my library. As I've said before, this is a short story collection that takes place from the point of view of animals. Also in the month of October, I'm going to be reading 5-Star Billionaire by Tosh Awe. I started a few pages of this in September. I didn't get very far, obviously, because I had other books to focus on. But this book talks about, I think, 5 people in Shanghai and how they're starting their lives, and I'm sure how their lives interconnect with one another. I've heard really good things about this one, and I'm very excited to start it properly. I'm 50 pages into this next one and I'm still not really sure what it's about. It's called An Uncommon Education by Elizabeth Purser. I picked this one up and started reading it because it seems very academic, which is definitely something I want in September, October, when school is starting up. Plus the cover is gorgeous. I am hesitant to look into finding out any more about this book because I kind of want it to be a surprise as I go through it. So yeah, I'm excited and we'll see how I feel about it. I have one book on pre-order this month, and that's Death Wears a Mask by Ashley Weaver. This is the second book in the Amory Ames mystery series. The first of them was Murder at the Brightwell, which I read over the summer and loved. So I'm very much looking forward to continuing with that series. And then I have one on hold at the library called The Czar of Love and Techno by Anthony Mara. This is technically a book of short stories, but it seems more like a novel that's broken into short story size segments because all of them are interconnected. I am sure I will find out when I get around to reading it. And then to finish everything off comes the two big projects that I am going to try desperately to keep focused on. I was reading over the summer The Land of the Firebird by Suzanne Massie and was hoping to finish it last month, at least at the beginning of the month. But then I realized that I'm going to be reading the next book that I'm going to talk about, and I thought that it would be really smart to read those two at the same time. Because The Land of the Firebird discusses Russian history, I thought it would be smart to read it at the same time as Ruska by Edward Rutherford, which is an epic historical fiction piece dealing with Russia. I think it spans 1800 years. Just once again, yeah. I think I'm gonna have more free time in October. I think I have my schedule pretty nailed down now. So if I read 30 pages a day, I can get through this, not counting any of my other books. I like a challenge. So I'm going to try it. If I do not succeed, I'm going to try not to beat myself up for it. But this is a novel that I've wanted to get to for a really long time. One of my professors in college told me about this book. I mean, it's been several years that I've been wanting to read this. Here's hoping. So that's what I read in September, what I didn't finish in September, and then what I want to read for October. If everything is going how I think it's going, then I'm going to have a good shot at finishing all these books. If not, well, then that's life. Please let me know if you've read any of these books or if you are planning to read any of these books or your thoughts on them in general. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments section down below. My Twitter and my Instagram handles are both BookOlive, and the link to my Goodreads, as always, is down below if you'd like to be friends or chat about something. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.